First things first, get your parcel shelf laid out nice and flat with the hooks poking upwards, being careful not to damage the sides. And then take your hammock and lie it inside the shape as evenly as possible, with the curved side towards you. It's just a little bit easier to do it that way. Your rope or cord will come something like this in a bundle, and I recommend, although it's not essential, that you add some tape to the ends to keep them from fraying. They shouldn't fray because they're not going to be in much use. They're not going to see much action once the cord is attached to the hammock. Some people like to dip the ends in wax. That's up to you if you want to do that. Here I've used a little bit of black electrical tape. The only way you're going to get the hammock attached is by opening out the cord so that the whole cord is opened out with no tangles and ready to go. So that might trail on the floor behind you or across the desk, but what you want to end up with is the whole thing spread out with this bit ready to start in this corner. Start in the top left corner here and tie a knot in the back. This should be sufficient. Any knot will do. If you know a fancy knot, that's cool. And get that behind. And then it's a simple case, although a little time consuming, of taking the cord over the top, underneath, and through the next eyelet. It takes some doing. And careful to straighten it out. What you're aiming for is to keep the tension the same as you go along, because ideally you want to have an even space between the parcel frame itself and the hammock. Okay, so that's the first one done. And then repeat that process, grabbing the end of your rope, taking it over the parcel shelf and underneath, up through the eyelet, and pulling the whole lot through. Adjusting the tension as you go, and that will give you the most straightforward stringing possible. As you get to the other side, you can start to pull against the bottom edge to sort of pull it into shape, but just watch you don't sort of distort and pull any lumps in. We want it to be nice and flat. When you get to the other end, you'll start to feel the tension is correct in these eyelets, and you can pull one against the other and just sort of tug it into place so that it matches. And you'll end up back where you started, with the knot in the corner here and this spare end if you threaded correctly and gone to the sides of the hooks here. And there's no magic trick here. I would just recommend that you tie these together to make one knot in the back. Obviously you've used this current knot to keep everything from moving, and then I would tie the two together. You shouldn't see it once it's in the car. Again, there's no fancy knot here. If you know one, please use it. And that will sit underneath. There we go. Another way to do this, if you prefer, is to take the knot out of the back that you use to keep the tension, pull this one out, pull your final end through the final eyelet, bring that to the top. And then if you prefer the look of it, you could actually put the knot on top if you want the knot to be visible, which is quite a nice look. I'm going to use a reef knot. And then you're going for a sort of deliberate corner knot, which I quite like. Finally, if you fancy it, it's a bit of a wriggle, but I quite like this approach. You can remove the knot you kept for tension, put the two ends together, because you will have taped or waxed them, squeeze them together through the last eyelet, pull them from the back, and then what you have there is the two corners going into the eyelet, and then you can knot them at the back neatly. Thus, if you wanted to, of course, you can at this point, if you want to, you could trim your ends down and retape or re-wax them. But again, once they're in the car, these will disappear under the hammock, and in that way you end up with quite a neat corner. Just a note on threading the flat ends here, you'll see you've got the two hooks that hold the hammock onto the car. What I've recommended through testing is when you come out of this oblique corner here, that you feed this cord this side of the hook, in and out, and you thread this cord at the top of the hook. So you've got one at the bottom of this hook and one at the top of that hook, and that will just stop them moving or colliding or pincing together. So it keeps this end and the other end nice and straight and sort of evenly under tension. So that's using these two hooks here to keep your cords in place.